Hey Reggie, how are you?
Okay, I'm here today. Ready to do this interview.
We
Get the word out to the people.
yeah, you had a compelling story, and the sad thing is, like, you're not the only one. I mean, your story is, one of the more traumatic, but there's so many people with similar situations of just injustice and in prison and shouldn't be, don't need to be. We left off though, and we were just about to get into what prison really had done to you and your time in there. Like, I know, like with me, it actually caused some mental health issues. How about you?
Yeah, as I touched on briefly in the first segment, yeah, I'm diagnosed with mental health issues since 2014. My first 10 years in prison, I was still young and participating in a lot of sports and stuff because the prison offered a lot of sports and things like that back in the 90s and the 2000s. As time went on, they ushered away a lot of those things. We used to be allowed out of our cells 8 hours a day, and now we're allowed out like 4 or 5 hours a day. So those type of things causes us to sit in a cell with nothing but our thoughts on our mind. And when we have thoughts on our mind, we think about the loved ones that we lost. We think about the life that we missed. We think about the women that we don't have. We think about being lonely. We think about so many different things that's negative and that's harmful for our mental. So as years and years and years go on, if you're doing like 5 to 10, those type things won't affect you. But once you're in here 10, 20, 30 years, as I have been in here, those things takes a toll on you. And since I came to jail, I think the mental health roster has went tenfold, maybe in 100-fold since then. So it's so many things and so many aspects that's deteriorating our minds in these places nowadays, and it really needs to be addressed, and it really needs to be redirected to have things to provide some type of joy. They propagate no joy in prison. It's like everything's against joy. If you go through life, I know people did what they have done and they should be punished, but you have to have joy. If you don't have some
Um,
form of joy, then you're going to have mental health issues. You start to deteriorate, and now the state has put itself a burden on itself to have to cover these expenses for psychotropic medications and everything that comes along with it. Yeah, mine started off in like 2014. I think I had about 17, 18 years in at the time. My grandma was getting older. My grandma raised me. She took care of me. I loved her more than anything in the world. And she passed away 2017, and I really hit rock bottom. So from then, I sat myself. I cried a lot, and I missed her, and I start reflecting on the life that I missed, and that that brings me to tears a lot. You lose so many friends. You try to meet pen pals, so you might have a woman come into your life as a friend, or maybe in a brief relationship for a year or two. Then she disappears because life continues out there. Then we're stuck in here with a heavy heart and nowhere to go and nowhere to turn to. You can't really cry because and men we had in prison we have to be macho. So a lot of people retreat to showers and cry because they can't cry in front of their cellmate. A lot of these things we don't speak about and people out there don't really know about. And all those things just take so much. So now, I take medication that helps me out a little bit. But I'm one who always wanted to be something. I always wanted something out of life. So when I reflect on that, it really, tears me down. It really hurts me. And there's nothing I really can do to get around it, to escape it.
yeah, I think about that same stuff, and especially like in there, you have nothing but time to think, and you think of like the things you wanted to do, what you wanted to be, and when there's no way you and there's no way there's
Yeah.
nothing you can do. In fact, there's
No.
less you can do. You're more of a burden, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that can
Yeah.
cause.
Yeah. I have Well, the biggest thing for me is like I prepared myself to be a better man. I prepared myself to be a better person, and character-wise, and integrity, and decency, and mannerism, and prepare myself for society. And this is what the DOC wants you to do. But then there's no relief for you to go home. So once I got about 15, 20 years in, then I felt like, all right, I'm ready. Like, I'm beyond ready. It's like, coach, put me in the game. I'm sitting at the end of the bench. Like, put me in the game. And then years continue to go by. Years continue to go by. The courts keep denying you. And then that really takes a huge toll on you because it's like, damn, I prepared myself. You may get degrees in college. You may get certificates in this. And all this stuff is to be a better person in society, but you don't get a chance to execute it in society.
Right.
So what that does is really, tears you down while you're sitting in the cell. Like when I talk to the psychs now, they say, well, what are you doing to take your mind off it? What are you doing with your time? I got 30 years in. I done did everything that the DOC has to offer, plus more. I took it as an initiative to learn how to write books, and I wrote books. I took it to initiative to learn how to start businesses and started businesses. I did everything that you can possibly do that the DOC allows you to do, and now that it's done, it's nothing less for me to do. So that causes, a stress and depression, and it's like, what can I do? My hands are tied. Everything is tied. I can't do nothing, and it hurts. It hurts a lot.
What year were you sentenced?
I was sentenced in 1997.
Since '97. And what is your sentence?
37 and a half to 75.
30?
So I got 29 years in there. 29 and a half. So I got eight and a half years left.
And I mean, as we said before, it should be sooner.
Yes. Yes.
What would be your goals though when you get out? I mean, I'm sure you've had to think of that. I know I used to think about every day what I would do for like the first year.
Yeah. It's so many things that changed over the times because times have changed. So, like the first 10 years, it was certain things, and then whatever I achieved, whatever I learned to be a better person or to be successful in society with those qualifications have now changed. So many things change. I like business and investments because that never changed. But right now with AI doing the thing the way that it's doing, I'm looking into learning AI because it'll be the future. So I'm thinking about implementing AI ability to change businesses. So start my own business to go to other businesses and say, listen, I can upgrade your business. I can increase your bottom line for a percentage or a fee. And I will do so by using the skills that AI have. You know what I'm saying? So that's right now where my mind is at. When it was on other things in the past, but it's always been things of positive. You know what I'm saying? I think there's way too many ways to be successful in America to, have to do negative things. And I learned in prison, one of the most important things I learned in prison and in life is that people who don't do crime is never an option. The way I was raised and where I came from, crime is an option. Even though we may not want to do it, or we may think about the consequences, but it's an option. And people who don't do crime is never an option. So I had to learn that crime can never be an option. You know what I'm saying? No matter what's going on. No matter who dies, no matter who was killed, and you want to retaliate, no matter what happens. You starving, you living in the streets, crime can never be an option. So I like to share that with people because I think it's one of the greatest things I learned.
What you just said there, I've been out a year and I've had a lot of my friends that got out a little before me, a little after me. Almost all of them have gone back, and I mean it kills me. And they've all asked me, damn, man, how'd you do it? And that's it. Crime is not an option. I don't. Right. There's not one thing I do that could lead me back there. You got to think like that. And
that's right.
Get into the position where life is caving in on you, because in there, I thought I had it mapped out, and then I didn't even know AI. I didn't know about podcasts. I got out here and I studied law. I got certified in to become a paralegal. AI's
Mm-hmm.
there's no paralegals
That's
anymore. It's
right.
AI. You
That's
don't even need
right.
a
That's right.
lawyer.
That's
And
right.
I wish somebody would have explained what's coming up, and you might not know this, so I'm gonna tell you. AI, it's all about prompting. So, and I don't know if there's any books on AI prompting, because it's how you talk to an AI.
Yeah, without
and
a doubt.
and
The
there's
questions you ask it.
there's actually only just a few major AIs.
Tapping into the mastermind. You
Yeah,
got a mastermind AI, so the
yeah,
little ones tap into it like Chat GPT.
and Blue
Mm.
Seek and like
Yeah,
Gemini. Yeah.
yeah. What I want to do is, and this shows you where people minds is in prison. Like we get these video visits. They have courses on AI. So I want to start coming on these video visits, and I might pay the fee, but sit here and watch the course on a video visit. It's a sacrifice they have to make, but not spend this time with my family and my loved ones. But it's worth it because it'll benefit me more in the future. You know, if they're not going to teach us it, then we have to go be self-taught.
Right.
So that's something I look forward to doing in the future.
Actually a good idea, and I don't know if you've heard of this, but everybody out here, I'm sure, has micro learning, micro education.
Uh huh.
No, you haven't heard of it?
A little bit. I think you just go
It's
ahead, give it to me, so I don't
it's
want to mess it up.
the AI platforms, and it's you take 15 minutes out of your day to learn. So it's just a head on for 15 minutes. You're gonna learn Deep Seek day one, day two Gemini, 3, and they
Mm-hmm.
call it micro learning, micro education, and
Mm.
that could be. I mean, and that's just because out here the rarest commodity is time. People just don't
That's
even
right.
have time to learn,
Yeah.
apparently. In there,
Yeah.
that's all you have. You're sitting on mounds of
Yeah.
it. So if you could give somebody in there these resources,
That's right.
I mean, you'd be unstoppable. That would, and
That's right.
to start a course like that for teaching AI, that's a
Yeah.
really good idea. I bet you some other people would be really
Yeah.
interested in how could we do that. There was a
Yeah. I mean, the DOC obviously is not interested in those type of advancements of prisoners because you could put those courses in here like you say, and you could pay guys 50 cents an hour because we only get 19 cents. So say you pay them 50 cents an hour to take these courses and then start to implement things using AI that generates money for Pennsylvania, for the state budget and all that. It makes all the world of a sense. But the only reason that they won't do that is seems to be because we don't want you to come home more advanced than
yeah,
Heather and Barry did when they didn't commit a crime.
yeah, yeah. That's I don't know if they give it like in the courses, but it's a parole packet, and I don't know if they give it in other classes, but it's basically like you fill out like what you know and how you think, how you feel. It's sort of like an IQ test. At the
Mm-hmm.
end, it'll tell you what you can be in life. Mine said it's not realistic. My end result said it's not realistic. I remember asking my teacher, "What the heck does this mean? Not realistic." That
Yeah.
was the answer. That was my, and she's like, "Well, tone it down some." And I
Yeah.
said, because the only options were
Mm.
like carpenter, plumber, you know,
Yeah.
just
Labor worker.
labor. Yeah, yeah. I mean, not that anything's
Labor worker.
wrong with that, but
Of
the
course.
time
But
that
the
we,
answers you gave was advanced to be something above that, and the
yeah,
computer wasn't set up to even register
nope.
what you was implementing as answers.
Yeah, isn't that
Yeah,
something? That's true.
yeah,
I
yeah,
matter of fact, I brought it home with me too. It,
yeah.
it's and in there, the time that you put in when you come out, you don't want to start at the bottom. You shouldn't have to. you did all that time. I mean, when you utilize the time wisely,
Yeah,
and you said people
yeah,
with
good
short
5%.
sentences, they don't really, they
Yeah,
don't do it. They don't get it. I didn't get it until I hit about, I'm gonna say 7.5 years. It was like an epiphany. All right, I'm ready. Just like when you said that, I remember almost the day that it happened. I know exactly what I'm gonna do. I know what I can do. It was, and
yeah,
then from then on, I knew I wasn't gonna get out.
yeah,
That's what I'm gonna do. Let me start strategizing and working on it
yeah.
now. That way, when I'm out, I can hit the ground running. But
Without a doubt, without a doubt.
I
Let
am.
me what me and you was talking about a little earlier. I wrote this book, for the people out there to see. Wrote this book about 7 years ago, and when we were talking about the mental health thing, and one of the biggest things in prison is us being lonely. So I wrote this thing about loneliness that I would like to share with the people out there. It's really deep, and it's heartfelt. It's personal to me, and people understand and can really grasp it. I start off by saying, I don't know when it happened, but one day someone realized that the best method of punitive justice wasn't in the sting of a whip or the strain of hard labor. It was concluded if you could isolate someone from all that he loves and all that loves him, you could create conditions by which the agony of loneliness would render him inept. Loneliness begets grief. Grief begets anxiety and depression. Aquatic scientists have long discovered that some sea mammals die when separated from their mates. The anxiety and stress of being alone seizes upon their organs in such a way as to terminate life. Ever since my sentence of loneliness began, I've been continuously reminded of the bleak reality of my fate. Television screens ripe with images of joyous social coupling, happiness, the likes of which can only be possible through the voluntary bonds of both mind and spirit. Prison guards pass my cell with hands full of incoming mail, none of which are addressed to me. On my wall, the picture of a loved one staring back at me, captured in a moment of my absence, in some place far beyond my reach. The loneliness we suffer is akin to a single bird lost from its flock, with no inclination of which direction to turn, or a single drop of rain, which in its solitary can only be referred to as a drip. So I look to pen pals like constellations in the sky, hoping to find a star of my own. You see, the humanity of life exists in the voluntary interaction of souls, bonded by the teethers of love, compassion, and fear. And what is this fear? It is undoubtedly the fear of being alone. And since life only exists in duality, I live both lifeless and in fear. So I sit here lonely in the cell, deteriorating from inside out, writing, writing, and writing some more, hoping for someone to hear me. Someone please respond, for to be loved is all I ask. Yeah, it took me about a week to write that, man. I really like hours a day sitting down, really going in on that, man. It's one of the proudest things I wrote.
There's emotion in that. There's
Yeah, yeah, you can tell it comes from within.
that's basically what we've been talking about, man. And in there, you have that time to put you in something, put feeling, emotion. It's not like that out here anymore. Everything's done so quickly. It's in a
Yeah,
hurry. It's
yeah,
and it you can tell too.
that's crazy. People don't even have time to have emotions, to be in touch with their emotions.
Yeah.
It's sad, man. It's sad. Before it wraps up, like I said, we get limited access to psychologists and stuff. So, if there's any psychologists or people, counselors, or people that would like to reach out to me and help me overcome some of my dark days, I really would like that because we all need someone to talk to in here. We really need. Like I said, I've been here 29, 30 years now, so you know, um, it'll definitely be beneficial to me and help me out continuing to strive, and try to find some joy maybe in someone else's life, or sometimes I just need to talk to someone who understands and not, the DOC is programmed to not, the employees, they are told to not have empathy or sympathy. So with that, you know, can't get much out of them.
I remember my counselor was my CO. She went home the one weekend, Friday, and Monday when she came in, she was in a suit. And she came to my door, with a clipboard. And I thought she was doing cell checks in a suit. She got to my cell and she's like, "How you doing, Mr. I said, "What are you doing now?" She's like, "I'm the block psych." I said, "What, you went to school over the weekend?"
Yeah, that's right. One day
That's how
they'll
it
be
goes.
in Browns working with the work crew. The next day they'll be a counselor. Then they'll be a
Doctor.
CEO. Then they become psychologists. Like, and what type of degree do they actually have? And just even experience with interacting with people and dealing with their issues. It's it's really sad. We have to do the best that we can ourselves. So all outside help is always welcome.
You have 30 years in, right?
Yeah, 29 since
30
1996, September
years.
96. So this September will be exactly 29 years.
You're looking for like a tether to the world. I can't even imagine at 30 years, but I remember thinking I don't exist. I need someone to talk to. I need to know. I need to know I exist because you talk to your family and God bless them, but
Hmm.
that's still in your little world. Is
That's
there
right.
anything beyond this world? This cell?
That's
That's
right. That's right. All men need to be seen. All men want to be relevant, even if it's not successful in work area. They want to be relevant, so being in society allows you to be relevant with family. Your son and your daughter. Hey, daddy, yada yada. You feel relevant. You're doing things to take care of them. You're taking them out. You're being with a girl. These things make you feel relevant as a man. In prison, there's nothing that makes you feel relevant. So that after a while, like I said, if you're doing 5, 10 years, you can kind of push that off. But when you get to in here for life in 20 years, you start looking for things that make you feel relevant. So sometimes, people will take their job and passing out food, and it becomes relevant to them. It makes them feel like, hey, block worker, can you give me an extra? It makes them feel relevant. It's sad, but it's the only thing that people have to make them feel relevant, and that's why a lot of guys gravitate towards gangs, because the
yeah,
gangs that make them feel relevant as
right,
well.
exactly. You've out here, you grow up, you wanna be a part of something, and I mean our state, Philadelphia, or the cities, they locked everybody up. You know, you're in
Yeah,
there, you're one of them, and then all these kids are growing up without that father figure because they're in
yeah,
prison, so they're looking for a male group to be a part of. We need to be a part of something. I mean, as
yeah.
men, we
That's right.
definitely don't want to just be just in a cell doing nothing
In a
and then
cell.
relying on somebody else. We want to
Yeah.
contribute.
I noticed about 3 weeks ago. I was talking to a female CEO, and we were talking, and we were talking about a couple things from society, and for a brief moment, I felt like relevant. But then when I walked away and walked in the cell and closed my door, and I put myself in her shoes to see me walk away and walk into that cell and close the door, and it was like, wow, you know,
Yeah,
you have to really, see it. It's like, wow, how relevant can you be?
yeah. Then
You know,
it's
what type of man are you really?
you have I guess a way of putting it because it's not really a perspective. Because
Yeah,
a lot of people in there have that perspective, they just don't know how to say it. You put it into
yeah,
words, man.
yeah.
That's
I mean, a lot of
everything
time
you
in the
said.
hole, a lot of time in the hole, when you get the, I have over 8 years in the hole, man. Over 8 years off and on in isolation. Trying to adjust to these places, and a lot of times just being lied on. A lot of times sticking up for myself as a man. When you do over 8 years in a hole, you have nothing but time to think. So I can only think about my life, and that was prison. So I was able to internalize all those things and then put it in perspective, as you say, and give insight into it, because this is all I know. You know, it's sad, but it's all I know. And I'm hoping that, me being to be able to interpret it and put it in a way that people out there can understand and say, wow, well, we didn't know it was like that. I didn't know things like that go on. And maybe, things have changed, man. Maybe things, someone of importance to see, and, phone calls could be made, emails could be done to the governor, and maybe some things could change.
That's the ultimate goal, to change
Yes.
the injustice. I thought of the other day, like how to say it, what to say, and I think we can all agree that our judicial system is corrupt and flawed. You can go to a courthouse and even ask judges and district attorneys and lawyers, and they'll agree with you. And then, after I thought that, I got to thinking, that's crazy that's true. It's become socially accepted
And
that our
yeah.
system is flawed.
Yeah.
How's that possible?
Yeah. Yeah, and continues to be that way.
Continues.
And it's like, because once you switch over to a money monster, no one really cares.
Yeah.
I was, no lie, man, I was walking back from the barbershop today, and I seen like three old guys, old white guys. They were like in their 70s and 80s. They had blues on. I mean, they just came upstate, and they're walking, and it's like, what are you doing? When I came to prison, he didn't lock guys like that up. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
They're not criminals. They're
Yeah.
not doing no hard crime. They're doing, it's something that he should be in the county for. They used to be in the county, but now that the state prison is about money, they're like, oh, send them upstate, because we need to fill these beds. We need them to make these phone calls, buy these emails, buy this music, buy this commissary. We need to keep this cash cow going. So that they're literally just locking anybody up now from all over the state.
I just read an article the other day. During COVID, Governor Wolf signed a reprieve to release a bunch of inmates. Scientists came up with the idea of this many people have to be released in order to stymie the growth of COVID. The central office said, well, we have this many inmates, and it was in the thousands that fit that criteria, and they're like, well, release them all. Come the end of COVID, it never happened. I didn't even know that was because did you ever hear about that during COVID or after?
Yeah. I heard about
I
it.
watched people get denied parole and during COVID.
What I seen where I was at, there were guys that like, you might have got caught with a couple bags of weed. You were here for a misdemeanor, and you had a month left to see parole. Those are guys they were letting go.
They didn't let anybody go from Housedale. Nobody.
Oh yeah. I was at
Nobody.
Rockview at the time. I seen them let a handful. I mean, you was at Housedale, so you was a lot of hardened criminals there. So,
Well,
a lot of guys with violent crimes.
All right, I guess it could be.
Yeah.
But there was in
Yeah.
the thousands of people that were supposed to go home that didn't, and the only